This is Sailing Adventures with Bill and Danny. We're cruising the waters of Florida, the Keys. Alright, so what did we do? We stayed for a day longer in West Palm Beach than expected because the weather didn't cooperate. First time moving. We went out for the first time sailing this boat in the Atlantic, and we had a lot of fun and we got some insights. We didn't do everything right. We didn't clean up before inside, so a lot of things fell around and now we have a big mess inside because we didn't expect to go out. Actually, we just wanted to anchor, but spontaneous change of plans. We also forgot to tie the dinghy up on the front deck and lowering the mainsail. It fell somehow apart.
To get it in, you loosen this and slide it down, and then you can slide the individual cars up into here. Well, this came loose on its own and slid down, so when we lowered the sail, the cars just kept falling out of the bottom. So that's why the whole bottom of the sail. So when I stopped it and I came up here, I put this back in, so it stopped the cars, so at least the top half of the sail is still in the track. So it's not, I mean, basically what we need to do is take this, raise the sail, take this down, and then feed the cars back in. And once all the cars are back in, then tighten this up and then put the sail back properly.
Apart from that, we did pretty good.
I think we did really well. And that clip thing is really just tightening the clip properly when we put it back together.
Yeah.
So,
Good speed. 7 knots.
over 7. 7.5 at one point.
Good.
Scared the crap out of you. I forgot to warn you how far it was going to heel over when it
Oh yeah. For me, the first time on a monohull, I was like leaning over and thinking, oh, probably the boat will make soon this. But it didn't. We're here back in the bay and everything worked out well. In comparison to the catamaran, I'm used to it. It's a new experience.
Sorry about that, Father. I forgot to warn you how far she was leaning over when the wind caught her.
Yep. But then we came back to our anchorage. Then we had some great snorkeling on the bridge at the inlet of West Palm Beach. And yeah, there's an area especially for doing snorkeling, and then there's also a diving area where you have to use a diving flag. Unfortunately, we didn't have diving flags, but nevertheless, we got some good snorkeling, saw some great fish, and maybe next time we will have diving flags. On the way back to our boat, we passed by a shipwreck, a little sunken sailboat, which was kind of neat, and after that, a lot of houseboats, and then the sky became darker and darker as we were approaching the boat.
Almost! If we'd have left, what, 10 minutes earlier?
Roundabout.
Ah, geez.
Yeah, rough seas.
This is bad. It looks like it's going to get worse, too.
Oh yeah.
Well, I still kind of feel like we have a few seconds. No, here it comes. That's the end of it. I thought we were going to make it before it got real bad, but I was wrong. Ah, shit.
Now we get our shower. And the next day we did 50 miles. Unfortunately, just of motoring down, not the ICW, but in the open Atlantic. We tried to avoid the Gulf Stream, and we made it more or less. At first we got a little bit caught, then we moved closer to the coast and speeded up by 1 or 2 knots. We started to head south around 2 hours before sunrise at 5:30 in the morning, and the Atlantic Ocean was calm as a pond. There was no swell at all, and there was a little bit of wind, but unfortunately blowing exactly from the south. So we were in irons facing the wind and couldn't use it. We saw exactly 1 dolphin on the way down. It was great. And yeah, finally we reached Fort Lauderdale. It's going into the inlet of the Fort Lauderdale area. There were a lot of apartment buildings on both sides of the metropolitan area of Miami. Huge house building blocks. So in Fort Lauderdale we had to pass a bridge which was exactly 55 feet high, and the mast of the Tartan 37 is also 55 foot tall. So to make sure that we really pass the bridge and don't hit it, we let it open. We stayed a night at a tiny little anchorage, just room for a couple of boats in there. But it was good, it was a cold night. It's not a good anchorage if you want to go exploring the city, because there's nothing around. There's one restaurant which lets you dock with your dinghy, but that's it. For the other day we explored the channels a little bit in the dinghy, because the channels are not that nice to explore on a sailboat. They're very small and some of them are very shallow. So if you have a boat that has more than 5 feet of draft, you should be very careful if you don't want to hit the ground. The dinghy was no problem. We even passed the bridge just a little bit. We almost hit it with our head, but we made it through it. And then we went to the dinghy dock and went through the channels, seeing all the very expensive powerboats of the rich people who live in Fort Lauderdale. But it's nice channels to explore. And Fort Lauderdale is called the Venice of Florida, so that's where the name comes from. Next day we headed towards Miami.
Mostly motor. We put the sails up for a little bit, but the wind was not favorable at all. It was mostly blowing us the wrong way. But another, what, 25 or so miles?
Yeah, 25 miles. We were passing first North Beach, then Miami Beach, and finally approaching downtown Miami. And we found a great spot. I really liked it. We had a big anchorage and it's a stadium bay with a beautiful view over up to downtown Miami. A very little island which is used for partying, for a lot of small powerboats come there. I tried out the stand-up paddle bar. It was pretty neat, got some little exercise in the evening and today in the morning again. And now we're really under sail the first time.
Security, all stations. United Coast Guard, Texas, U.S. Florida. United Coast Guard, Texas, U.S. Florida. United Coast Guard, Texas, U.S. Florida.
Yeah, sometimes you get interrupted by the radio, the U.S. Coast Guard, Channel 16, emergency alarms. And usually it's not Mayday, it's Pan or Security, the most common alarms. Yeah, we're sailing in Biscayne Bay right now, southwards, and with constant 4 knots. Sometimes it falls down to 3 knots, sometimes it speeds up to 5 knots. But that's not too bad for the wind we have right now,
yeah,
which is also in between 6 and 10 knots. So yeah, slowly moving down into the Keys. So what are the Keys actually? The Keys of Florida are an archipelago, a bunch of small islands which stretch around 120 miles off of the most southern point of the peninsula of Florida, and they are connected via a street, so you can go all the way down to Key West, this most southern key, on a road. But the more beautiful way is of course sailing down. You can go either outside, which is in the open Atlantic Ocean, or inside, which is the Gulf of Mexico. So the string of islands also separates the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. And we're sailing on the inside now, It's a very calm area inside because there's not a lot of swell. Outside the ocean might be more rough. Having a great sailing day with a lot of sun, some clouds, and let's see where we'll end up to date. This is really a cruiser's paradise here in the Keys of Florida. Hundreds of islands, amazing snorkeling opportunities with natural as well as artificial reefs, and I hope we can check out a few of them. But I'm glad that you invited me to join you on this trip, definitely.
It's been really good. It's been really fun.
Yeah, we're heeling now a little bit again. Got just enough wind for making that. And it's still a little bit weird to me. Just used to the catamaran, to a multi-hull, not to the mono-hull, where everything leans once the wind picks up. But it's cool, nice feeling, I like it. And the water in this whole bay is super shallow, just around about 10 feet most of the time, sometimes even less, like 7-8 foot deep. So we can barely sail here. It's just enough, and some parts there are some channels which are artificially dug into different bays to connect them, to make it possible for sailors as well as motorboats to go through. But the water is very clear, and when we look down here now, we can see the bottom of the ground. This is Elliott Key, north part of the island, of one of the northern keys. And beautiful beaches, mangroves, and a tropical forest. There's a lot of paths here and a lot of mangroves. Okay, change of plan, we're moving somewhere else. There's tons of mosquitoes here. I'm eaten up. Not so good. Okay, second try, now with bug spray. Hopefully more successful. Let's head back to Elliott Key. That's way better with the spray. I mean, there are still some flying around, but okay, that's it. Second try also failure. Mosquitoes are still biting. Not as much, but even though we tried out 3 different mosquito sprays, we can't get rid of the bugs. Okay. Daily session, swimming around the boat. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. For example, in West Palm Beach, in the ICW, there was a lot of current, probably 3-4 knots, and you had to fight a lot to stay even next to the boat. And here in Elliott Key, it's extremely easy. There's not a lot of current, so you can just swim around, or you can swim wherever you want and come back. So, but nevertheless, I'm swimming here because when you live on a boat, you have to make use of the water, which is always surrounding you. Let's go! Ah, refreshing. Although the water is almost as hot as the air. Unbelievable. And it's almost November. A winter in Florida. Second day in Biscayne Bay. We are cruising south with constant wind, with around about 50 knots, a little bit gusty every now and then, but we're doing a constant 5 to 6 knots right now. Even though we didn't put the sails completely up, we reefed the main, also the jib. We could let her out a little bit more, but
does. He really wants to.
Nice cruising speed, yeah. I mean, let's power this boat up. let's go into racing mode. Maybe we can do 7 knots. 7.5?
Sure we can.
8?
I'm about 8.
Let's get some healing. Here we go. Now we hit the 7 knots. Wind has become really strong now. It's constant 20 knots. We had to reduce the jib, the Genoa, way more, but we're doing more. We're still 6 knots now and the boat is more under control now again. We're approaching a channel right now with very shallow water on both sides, just 3 deep, 3 foot of water, roundabout, or maybe 4 or 5. And to go through, we reduced the sails again, brought down the main completely, and just on the sail with a little bit of the jib. That gives us enough control to go through the channel. Crossing from Little Cart Sound into Barnes Sound.
Yep.
This is the channel which brings us from Barnes Sound into Blackwater Sound. We have to pass another bridge. It's around about 65 foot tall. Our mast is 55 foot, so we shouldn't have any problem to pass. Next to the bridge in the mangroves seems to be a very good hurricane shelter. Natural and pretty safe. Maybe it's not that safe. Look at this guy. First thing here to do in Key Largo, in Blackwater Sound, anchor check. Let's see if it's really dug deep into the mud, sand, plants, whatever's down there. We let out even more anchor chain now, 100 foot in just around about 7 foot deep water. We can swing around here a lot, that doesn't affect anybody, no other boats, so better safe than sorry. Our rule of thumb says that you should let out the anchor chain around 3 to 6 times more of the depth you're anchored in. So we're anchored into around about 7 to 8 foot deep water, depending on the tide. But tide's just varying around 1 foot to 2 foot here, so not a lot at all. We let out 12 to 15 times the length or the depth which would be necessary. Of course, it always depends on the surface of the bottom. If it's sandy or rocks and a lot of growth down there, or if it's mud, the anchor is more probable to drag, and also on the type of your anchor. We're heading back towards Miami, doing some good speed in Biscayne Bay right now, and after 2 days in the Keys we had great fun down there. Apart from Elliott Key, alias Mosquito Island, that was not so nice, but apart from that, it's really nice. Cruiser's paradise. The watercolor changed right now from a deeper blue to a really turquoise green. Wonderful. Seems like we're in the Caribbean. Well, we're almost there. The wind is just perfect. And yeah, let's see where we will end up tonight. Probably in some of the anchorages close to Miami. Got into a little rainstorm, but apparently it's almost over again. Just a couple of minutes with wind gusts up to 30 knots, and now it seems to die down again. Weather's super unpredictable here. We have blue sky behind us right now, but to our starboard side and in front of us there's again some storms coming up. So let's see if we'll make it, if we pass them, or if they pass us, or if we run into another one. Here on Key Biscayne, We're surrounded by plenty of powerboats. It's Saturday evening, Saturday night. A lot of booze cruisers, young party people going out, drinking alcohol and listening to reggaeton music and rap. And we're almost the only sailboat here. Doesn't matter. It's good protected from the wind in comparison to most of the other bays here, and we'll spend the night here. Let's see if we will have music all night long or if people leave or turn them down at some point. To me it doesn't really matter. It's neat. We have again a good view over to Miami, and I'm exploring this little area right now here on the paddleboard. Next day in Biscayne Bay. We are almost the only boat which survived the night. One powerboat left, 99% left last night. So it's obviously just a party place for the night. Many years of work for both of us.
I don't know what you did. I know all the crap I did.
But I didn't work on the boat. But
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you, Bill, for inviting me to this journey. We had some pleasant days together.
I'm glad
some
you came.
excitement.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of new things together, I would say.
Yes.
And now heading back to Miami, to Coconut Grove. My last little passage on this boat with very light winds.
Very light.
We're really cruising with just 3 knots, but it's comfortable.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And whatever the radio is making
Under 1
a
minute,
little noise,
the prep flag.
apart from that,
No idea what's
it's
going
calm and quiet. The water is also calm, no swell here in the bay, Biscayne Bay. And in around about an hour, we will be on land again.
Yep. Safe mooring and cleaning and reprovisioning and a few projects to do, and you'll be on your way to your next boat.
That's it. Everything's said. Thank you, Bill.
Yep.